Basically, this is just going to be a quick panel. It could even be a rapid round at this point. I feel like, okay, so we thought we'd start with a very sort of global question, which is, why is Montessori growing globally, and what is its appeal? Okay, and who would like to start off with that question? How about Gina?
I'll answer that question. I think the appeal to it is that parents have often had an experience in education that wasn't satisfying, and they want something new and different for their children. They realize that society is changing. The workforce is changing. It's, we don't even know the jobs that are going to exist in the next 5 to 7 years. We have no idea what those are really going to look like. And Montessori prepares for that, and I think parents have a sense of that. I also think there's that sense of that, while also there's a sense of childhood is rushed. And so Montessori is a way for them to also be able to take a breath with their kids, and their kids to be able to take a breath and just be children.
I think Montessori works. Parents and the educators have realized you can lose your mind by telling the child again and again. But if you understand the different developmental planes of development of the child, where they're at 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you understand better. So you can make your approach according to the child's need, and that comes by observation. And of course, it really works. I'm telling you, it works. I have tried it with my school children when I used to work as a teacher. And even with my teachers, it works. I try to use Montessori approach with them. I do. Thank you.
Just an American perspective, AMS, like I shared earlier, is turning 65 years old. And when you look at the 1960s in American culture, there was a big universal disconnect with families and parents really disconnected and upset with the educational system. Now, of course, during that time, the country was also divided. There was, desegregation of schools. But what also happened was there was this renowned energy of wanting a different type of educational experience for children, which was not taking place in our traditional systems. And so this concept, Montessori came back, Montessori's philosophy came back into the country and grew through these entrepreneurs, these women, these moms that really wanted a different type of education for their children. So they also grew that, and now what we're seeing today is that same disconnect is happening again in the United States. And with that, you're seeing a new interest in Montessori education based on what Gina shared, that we know what children need and what skills they need that Montessori naturally already provides. When you look at all of the best practices, the research that comes out, even from Ivy League educational institutions, everything that is there, you can translate to what Dr. Montessori wrote about here in her time in India. For example, critical periods for learning. When we talk about ideal environments, the opportunities of having multi-age groupings, all of these naturally are embedded. We have to do a better job of articulating how this is already embedded naturally in our educational system, rather than changing the dialogue or trying to communicate in ways that appeal to mainstream educational institutions. And that's happening in the United States. It's really happening.
I think that's a great segue, Munir, into a very important question that was actually the last question, but I thought it would be the right segue here. How does Montessori education support the child as an adult? Share insights on how Montessori has innovated to meet the future. And I'd like to call upon Chandaji and also Jeffrey, if I can take that liberty. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave that for Jeffrey to take it up. I would just like to bring about, as we are coming to a closure, that the group of Montessori people here, it's not an MBA. I can't compare it with anything else. The only thing I'm going to compare it with is probably the doctors, the medical profession. We are something different. And I would like to prove that today itself. On that activity which was done earlier, the questions were asked, which are the important things on this sheet of paper? The lady there who was a Montessorian, first she started with, well, this is important, but hey, everything is important here, it's interconnected. That was her reaction, that all these things are the composite of Montessori education. You cannot define it by a single word. Then of course, no offense to anyone, a second person who was not Montessori, and she says, well, what I liked was preparing the classroom in the morning for the children to come. And that was one word. And then the third person was again who was doing state education, but recently a Montessorian, and she came out with a little balanced answer there that, in the state level this happens, but in Montessori happens, this is what is happening, and she's able to convince her parents how Montessori is far more superior. So all I would like to say is everyone here, if you have not done Montessori, please do Montessori. It's a world apart. It's something which I'm very proud to share. I don't know, we are aliens. Something like this, the groups who are Montessorians. So, and every Montessorian is a passionate person. She has something different. And we are creating kids who are different, which comes to Jeffrey's talk.
The thing that I'm thinking about when you asked the question was, what makes a better parent that's been in Montessori? I think one is that they understand childhood better. A Montessori child who grows into a Montessori parent understands childhood much better. And just that connection to creating an environment not only at school but at home for the child as well, putting the child front and center rather than putting the child second. We talked earlier on about the idea of order within your space, and the order within your home is so critically important. Having areas in your house that are a child's size, where I can get my own plate, I can get my own knife and fork, I can hang my coat up when I come home. The coat hook is not way up here that I can't reach it, it's at my level. In my room, everything is at my size rather than everything being adult size. So thinking about your environment from the perspective of the child, and as the child grows, changing that environment because the needs change for each one of those children as they get older. So, Montessori parent who's been a Montessori kid, got a good grasp on all of that.
I seem to agree with Jeffrey. Providing consistency between home and school is so important, because when children come to school and they are differently treated, at home they are treated differently, it doesn't work. Like he said, the home environment should be conducive to the child's needs, so they know where to hang. And sometimes I get to hear from the parents, my child seems so happy here, doesn't want to go home. And I tell them, are you providing the same kind of approach? Respect, listening to their needs, listening to them, having a negotiation. Those things are so important, providing consistency.
I was just going to add another point. When we do our introduction to our school when the child is 2.5 and we're speaking to the parents, one of the things that we say to the parent is, your child's time at Montessori, that child may not become a doctor, they might not become a surgeon, but they will become a good citizen and they will care for the world. And I think that's really, really important.
My own state and my own district, I think we need workshops like these for parents. They don't understand Montessori. They just have heard the word and they have their own fantasy of what Montessori could be. But if they understand, then naturally this will help them as parents. Because I was reading it somewhere that why it's called parenting. Because it's more for the parents to educate themselves than why it's not called childing.
it's their education before they can get to their children.
I will
And
do for you, but bring me parents. When I do workshops here, I prepare a PowerPoint presentation, I spend time reading, researching, and guess what? 20-30 parents show up instead of 100.
Yeah, that's another challenge, but that's what I'm trying to do. And yeah, that's the need of the hour. We really have to spread the Montessori word. It has to be the parents.
Thank you. In fact, that's another segue into the final question, which is about communities and how does Montessori education support the communities that we live in? Because obviously the parents are part of it. And you know, one of the things we do here is we try to bring it at a PTM day, parent-teacher session. So then they're like a captive audience and they're forced to come to Mrs. Trahan's workshops. But no, I mean, what I absolutely agree that it's sad that self-motivation, that self-desire to come is not there. But so what are the ways that we support, that Montessori support the communities that they live in? You want to take that?
Sure.
I think we all struggle, first of all, with the same challenges. And today's parents are busy. They leave it to the schools. They don't necessarily come to the parent nights. And so any opportunity we have is an opportunity we need to take, whether that's in a one-on-one meeting with a guide, an administrator, but there's an opportunity to provide the parent a resource, support, connect them back to the philosophy. And that is what Montessori allows us to do, because there's so much depth and beauty in the philosophy. Everything we do is based in child development. So any opportunity we get, we need to reconnect ourselves and the parent with that. And that does support the community. But I think also Montessori is always continuing to innovate and looking at the world and where we are today and what the needs are. And AMS does a great job with this. We talked about that with some differences in other Montessori organizations, and that we are evolving. We're continually evolving because today's world, today's children, today's family does not look the same, and it continues to evolve. So you have to know how to best meet those needs in order to best support the child, best serve the child, and create community that they're spending so much time in. So it does all come together in that way. Montessori is global, though. It attracts families. I know we see in the States, we see diversity within our schools. And that Montessori is open. It's a loving philosophy. It teaches kindness. It teaches acceptance. And that is where we find true community.
I think she answered the question a little bit at my level. What I do in America is when the parents come to enroll their child, I make it a point. I have handouts, 5 or 6 handouts. One is positive discipline, how to set up home environment, how to communicate with children. So I have 4 or 5 handouts which I give it to them, and I just don't give it to them because I know they're going to just shelf them. So I sit down with them in the conference room and go over all the ideas what I've written, because that's the only time I get undivided attention, because they're seeking admission. And I know a lot of people think it's waste of my time, they may not enroll, that's fine. I'm okay with that if they don't enroll. As long as they're taking something from me to take home, to think about, to become a better parent.
Thank you. Reinhard, did you want to add something? God, I'll take 1 hour, is that okay?
You know, one thing that came to my mind, that once you become a Montessori teacher and really understand Montessori philosophy, then you as an adult are living it. And that is the biggest influence on children, on people around you, the community you create and all that. And I think that is the most important. So let that transformation happen. Look at the philosophy and say, okay, what do I take from here? And change your own behavior.
Thank you. And I guess, are we reaching a close because we have a vote of thanks from Principal Ma'am?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure. Because they have to catch a flight.
Yes.
One question.
So since we have the AMS leadership here, I'll probably ask what are your plans for India? I mean, I know Montessori work is hard and it's done in pockets. And you already said in the US the growth of the movement was led by entrepreneurs, many of them parents. I have a similar story, started the school for my daughter. I have to thank AMS because the only reason we are able to do elementary education here is because we have an AMS trained person. She did her training in the US and chose to came back to India and joined our team. And then we have many other trained members, from different parts of the world. But we don't have training programs for elementary, training programs for adolescent here. There is some level of primary training, but then because of the fidelity aspect that you mentioned earlier, we do need trained teachers who know the authentic practice. So there is a lot of concentration of schools in the south, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, and I think you're going to Ahmedabad Shreyas Foundation, and I know people who work there. So what are the plans for India?
You want my secrets?
No, are you planning training programs in India?
So, AMS is complex, and so when you think about what is AMS, our focus is more than just Montessori education. So we have a school accreditation program, we have a pathway to continuous school improvement to help schools reach accreditation. We do teacher education program affiliation. We're also a membership society where educators, schools, families can be part of the organization to get, all information related to Montessori education, advocacy, research, policy. With teacher education affiliation, AMS does not operate teacher education programs. And so when an organization, a university, or an independent teacher education program is interested in affiliating themselves with AMS, they have to go through a rigorous process and ensure that they meet certain standards for teacher preparation as well as curriculum implementation. And so we have received quite a few interest and focus on starting AMS affiliated teacher programs in India. We learned that with our work in China, what worked and what didn't work. And so from those lessons, we want to make sure what we do in India is thoughtful, intentional, and community-based. And so with that, it was decided that let's come first to India. Let's spend time with the community. Let's see what's happening. Let's engage with our members as well as non-members. And what was exciting is that in the United States, we have a huge South Asian population doing Montessori education around the whole country. And quite a few of these AMS teacher educators come to India during the summers and and so there's a lot of interest in how can I support my country? How can I support and give my wisdom and talent when I'm back in my country? And so there's a lot of, we're in the infancy stages with all of this, and we're really wanting to make sure that AMS is intentional with what we do. And it has to happen in partnership with our schools, it has to be in partnership with the community, parents, everyone. And when we can do that thoughtfully, AMS can support that system so that it's done well. Then the support that happens in the schools, then our adult learners have training sites to learn and to grasp and to do things well, then you'll see how it will naturally grow. But we're right now really in the very early stages of being in India.
Before Mahitama proceeds to give the vote of thanks, I'd just like to quote Dr. Montessori. It's a beautiful thought, and she says, "Children are human beings to whom respect is due, superior to us by reason of their innocence and of the greater possibilities of their future." I think this is what we have learned today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lekha.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your presence.
Okay, it was an incredible session, wasn't it? So let's hear it for all the delegates. Round of applause, please. So thank you, everyone.
much for being here. I'll cut it short. I know you have a flight to catch. Your presence has enriched us, and your invaluable insights have left an indelible mark on all of us. Your willingness to share expertise and experience has been truly enlightening. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for traveling all the way and coming to share your experiences with us. Thank you all the attendees. Thank you.
We're going to have a group picture.
Yeah. Before we wind up, there's going to be a QR code. Please fill the feedback form and you will get the certificates in your email. And before we sign off, a group photograph, please. Thank you.